Welcome to the Elevate Your Leadership podcast series with U.S. Navy Special Operations veteran, CEO, and hockey fanatic Bob Pizzini. Bob discusses leadership, success, failure, defining moments, and hard lessons learned with guests who are intentional in their approach to leadership. Leadership is a perishable skill. Use it or lose it. In this series, entrepreneurs, industry executives, academics, public figures, and other highly effective professionals share their formulas for success with you.
Welcome, everybody, to the Elevate Your Leadership podcast with me, your host, Bob Pizzini. If you've watched the show before, and I know you have, and I thank you for that, you know that I only have guests on who I know personally. These are people who have brought value to me and my organization, and I know that the conversation we're about to have today with Lee Milteer will bring great value to you and your organization. Let me tell you about my awesome guest today. Lee Milteer is an internationally known entrepreneur, best-selling author, award-winning professional speaker, TV personality, and business mentor. Lee provides business and success advice and resources to nearly 250,000 people around the world. She is the founder of the Alchemist Inner Circle, helping entrepreneurs and business owners, and Millionaire Smarts Coaching program, which supplies done-for-you content, coaching for other coaches and businesses. Lee currently hosts The Blonde Warrior of Solutions on Rumble, which airs weekly on Wednesdays, and you'll understand the blonde thing in just a minute when we change the camera view. Lee hosts the America's Premier Experts TV show, which was aired on NBC, BS, ABC, and Fox affiliates. You're going to have to tell me what BS is.
It's NBC.
NBC, okay. NBC, ABC, and Fox affiliates. Lee has counseled and trained more than 2 million people in her speeches and teachings. Wow, that's a lot. She has written 17 books, one of which I have here. You'll see that in a second. 5 of which made the best-selling list, and her books include Activate Your Inner Power, Reclaim the Magic, Success is an Inside Job, which is the one I have here, Spiritual Power Tools for Successful Selling, The Magic of Prayer, and she has co-authored Renegade Millionaire with Dan Kennedy, Reach Your Career Dreams, Walking with the Wise for Entrepreneurs, The Secrets of Peak Performers 1 and 2, The Phenomenon, The Ultimate Entrepreneur Success Secrets, and Walking with the Wise, Overcoming Obstacles, Women Who Mean Business, The Women Millionaires, and Stephen Oliver's Wealth Book. Stephen Oliver is a mutual friend, by the way, and he's the one who introduced us, which, Stephen, if you're watching, which I know you are, I'm so thankful that we were all able to meet. Thank you for making that happen. Lee has been an expert guest on more than 1,500 TV and radio shows around the world. For more information, you can go to www.milteer.com, and towards the end of the podcast, we're going to go over all of her contact information and how you can get a hold of her. Lee Milteer, I have to catch my breath after reading all that. Welcome to the Elevate Your Leadership podcast.
Thank you so much, Bob. I'm delighted to be here in beautiful Virginia Beach.
Thank you for that. We are coming to you live from Virginia Beach, Virginia, on the 3rd floor of iFly Virginia Beach Indoor Skydiving. A beautiful facility that overlooks the Atlantic Ocean right down here on the ocean front. So thank you for that. Lee, I always like to start with origin story, and you and I chatted about this a while ago, and I think that's one of the reasons we hit it off so well is, you know, you were very eager to tell me about your upbringing because it was a little different, I would say. And as a young girl, as a little girl, you had visions and you had dreams. And so let's just start with where you grew up.
I actually grew up in a little farming village called Chuckytuck, Virginia, which is in southeastern Virginia. It's about an hour from Virginia Beach. My parents and grandparents on both sides, as far back as we can look, were ranchers and farmers. And my name is Lee, so Lee. They were expecting a boy. Because
they had the name picked out already.
Yes, they had the name picked out already. And the ranchers and farmers, they want boots on the ground. They want boys. They want them to work on the ranch. They want them to work on the farm, and the whole community, of farmers and ranchers really depend on those boys.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was born, my father didn't give up hope. By the time I was 3, he realized that my favorite toys were cowboy boots, red wagons, BB guns, and riding, little horses.
Okay.
So he started training me as a very young child, very young, to stand on my own, make my own decisions. He taught me to shoot. I was a really good shooter.
Very nice.
How to drive a tractor, how to drive a truck with gears. He was very big on stand your ground. We don't raise princesses here. We raise warriors. And he must have said that every single day. And if I would come home from school with, oh, people don't like this or that about us, he'd go, who cares? They don't live here.
Right.
We do not care what people who have nothing to do with us think whatsoever.
Right.
He was a very educated man, self-educated. He grew up in a really tough environment, but I am very grateful to have had a father who believed in me, that he literally, by the time I was 8 or 9 years old, I could ride my horse 25 miles away. Wow. Nobody even missed me until dinner time. Completely self-sufficient kind of kid. This helped me become a great entrepreneur.
For sure.
And my dad was not someone to mess with. He was like 6'5", 280 pounds.
Wow.
He was a serious dude. And so growing up with him, I have been afraid of no one in my life. Honest, no one could make you more afraid than my father. So I was blessed. It was kind of a blessing and a curse, but pretty much a blessing.
Yeah. Usually the blessing curse thing, those kind of balance each other out, and they're necessary.
They are.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any kind of normal childhood.
Okay.
I really had this childhood of, if I got into a scrape at school, my father said, well, take care of yourself. Do what you have to do.
Yeah.
You don't have to bow to anybody's authority but your own.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of heady stuff for, a 10-year-old.
For sure. Well, it's life's lessons coming at you quick and early in life. Did you play sports as a kid?
I played, pretty much my goal in life was to beat all the boys riding horses.
Okay,
and,
which is a sport.
Yes, which was definitely a sport. I played some softball and, some little things like that. But for the most part, we had a ranch and a farm. After school, you took your school clothes off and your new life started, which was, the ranch and the farm.
Yeah.
My job was taking care of the horses. So I got up at 4 a.m. every morning.
Wow.
And I still get up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
But I don't take care of the horses. I take care of me and do all the prep stuff I need to do every day to be able to face the day as a business owner.
Awesome. That's awesome. Did you have jobs in high school? I mean, obviously you were working on the family farm, but anything outside of that?
Well, I actually started my first business at 12. I had 37 people working for me when I was 12 years old. In the summer, what we had is lots. We actually had a lot of land, 117 acres right on our existing farm, but we rented 5 farms around us.
Oh.
We had foremen. And I remember the last day of school, I was 12 years old. I came home from school and my father was there and he had already saddled my horse, put my rifle in my saddle, packed my lunch and said, welcome to your new career. You are now in charge of 37 people. You have 110 acres to handle this summer. And the only thing you have to give them is water and rest. And of course, we'll pay them, but we're paying them very little.
Mm-hmm.
So this was my first gig in leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So what I learned was when you chop peanuts, with people who are from Virginia understand these long rows of peanuts, weeds will overtake a peanut plant unless you remove them. And so they have machines for that today. But when I was growing up, they did not have machines, or we didn't have one, I should say.
Yeah, right.
And so I'd start off the day at 6:30 in the morning. I'd meet everybody in the field. I told them about the day. I had to learn, because nobody was teaching me anything, I had to learn that I had to work harder, faster, and set a pace for them, and then understand, that they have needs. So at the end of every row, which were very, very long, everybody wanted to sit down and rest. And so I got this nickname, and it was called One More Row. because I would say, okay, we can sit down and rest and have water and have some treats right after we finish the second row, which, by the way, was going to take us an hour.
Yeah, right.
And so I finished at the end of that summer. I beat out all of the professional people doing it.
Yeah.
My crew had the best record. We made the best time. We had the cleanest feels.
Wow.
And we got a big bonus at the end of the year, which I bought a guitar.
Nice. So that's pace setting. Pace setting is a leadership style, actually. I wrote about that a little bit in my book.
Absolutely, you did. And so from there, I worked at a Tasty Freeze. I worked at Leggett's store as a roving salesperson. And this is, Bob, where I learned I could sell. Because people would come in there and they would ask for things, and I could actually pick up anything and then just start talking about what advantages this would be and what benefits this would be. And no sales training whatsoever other than dealing with my father, which was a sale every day to get to do what I wanted to do.
Right.
Because he always said no, but I was like, no means nothing to me. I'm going to figure out a way to convince him that this is a good idea.
How to get to yes.
So from there, my big job was I kind of fibbed and told this radio station I was out of high school and I got a full-time job in high school as a rock and roll disc jockey at an all-female station, WNOR-FM.
Wow.
And
still here today.
It's still here today.
Yeah.
And
FM 99, right?
FM 99.
Yeah.
Yes. So I got that. And when I finished high school for that summer, the sales rep said to me, I believe you'd be really good in sales.
Wow.
And so they gave me like 2 days of sales training and off I went. I ended up the year with the best numbers of anybody at the entire station.
Wow. Selling just commercial space?
Radio commercials.
Yes. Wow.
And the reason I was so good is because I was completely enthusiastic about it and excited about being there and actually just felt like I'm here to be of service. I didn't think about the commission. I didn't think about all that stuff. I really just thought like, this is a fabulous adventure for me.
That is cool.
So this whole childhood, if you look at my childhood, you can see how every single piece in place set up this pattern for me to be successful. There was no way I couldn't be successful as an entrepreneur.
You were just driven.
I was completely driven. I'm completely aligned with entrepreneur thinking, free thinking. I have no problem saying no. I have no problem saying that doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned over my many years in my own business to work in my business. You know, if I'm going to use my mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial energy every day, the five currencies that we have, I want to work on a business that I am creating.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I'm a pretty bad employee. I'm not able to be an employee because within a couple of days I would my leadership abilities would start to, sort of crank up.
Yeah, you're like me, like a Navy EOD technician. You know, we always think we can do it better.
Right.
You know, always think we can do it better, which is ultimately how my book, there was a genesis of my book. We were doing some leadership stuff here. We brought in some coaches and some guest speakers and all that stuff. And I just thought, I can do a better job than that.
Absolutely. And Bob, I got such phenomenal feedback from my interview with you on Millionaire Smarts.
Thank you.
Which is a content producing material for other coaches around the world.
Yeah.
And the feedback has just been
good to hear.
Exceptional. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I was on, Lee and I had a wonderful podcast discussion probably 3 months ago, something like that. But I'm glad I'm glad it worked out well, and it was a fun discussion as well. So radio station. Now you graduated high school.
Yes.
And you stay on the radio. You stay with the radio station. You're doing sales. And then what was next?
Went to college for a couple of years. The problem with college for me was me asking the question, I'm sorry, how am I going to monetize what you're teaching me? I'm sorry, this information seems really outdated, not usable.
Mm-hmm.
And again, how do I leverage it? How do I monetize it? The entire school had just completely freaked out about me because the teachers could not answer any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So after 2 years, I wrapped it up, came home and said, I'm just going into business for myself.
Wow.
And I went into, I started a business called the Electronic Background Music Service of Tidewater, which is, I dealt with engineers. We put in phone systems, electronic systems in places like the Norfolk Airport.
Wow.
All the big chain stores, like all the big grocery stores, all the big drugstores. I have never been a believer of working with little tiny clients because you have to work just as hard with a little tiny client as you do a big client that has a lot of locations.
Yeah, that's a key point there for sure.
Well, it made a difference.
Yeah.
So when I go to sell this, it actually, has some money to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be a visionary in your life because one day I was reading the New York Times and I see this invention called the 5 CD player. Okay, instantly, by the way, my competition was music.
Ah, okay.
Instantly, I knew we would be out of business in 5 years or less. I needed to sell that business like this. Technology was going to make us obsolete. I actually sold that business incredibly fast, keeping my thoughts to myself about that.
For sure.
And by the way, almost everybody in that industry was literally out of business within 3 to 5 years. I went into commercial real estate with S.L. Nussbaum, which was one of the 46th largest commercial real estate company in all of the United States, primarily because I had sold them background music service for all their office buildings and all their shopping centers.
They knew you.
They knew me, and they went like, we want this woman on our team. Commercial real estate was a great learning experience. I feel like it was important in my journey.
Sure, absolutely.
It wasn't my cup of tea in the sense of me going to the city looking at sewer plots was not, I considered fun.
For sure.
But it was a very important step in my career because in commercial real estate, I ended up speaking to a lot of groups. And the feedback, Bob, was, oh, you should be a professional speaker. And I remember thinking at the time, you people are like on drugs or something. Like, why would I be a professional speaker? I don't know anything about that. And then people were saying, you really should be teaching people about sales. You should be writing. You should be on television. And literally, I considered that, Bob, messages from the universe of my potential and where I could go.
Okay.
So I ended up leaving commercial real estate, going into business for myself, teaching people how to be to be their best in real estate. Got a gig at ODU for teaching women how to sell. Got on a TV show on Cox Cable so they just needed people to interview. And they liked me so much, they said, hey, you're very photogenic, you can talk, you have a command of language. We have an opening, would you like a job? And I said, I don't want a job, but I'll take a gig.
Okay.
But so I did a gig with them for 2 years doing television, which then got me the reel, which was then sent out with my agent to other places. So I got a national TV show in Toronto, Canada, which I worked at for 5 years. It was a celebrity show.
Wow. Did you live there or did you film it here?
I just flew up every Tuesday to Toronto.
Wow.
Would film Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, fly back to wherever I was speaking to, go home for the weekend, and do it all again the next week.
Wow.
For 5 years.
Wow. That sounds cool. Sounds like you got a lot of frequent flyer miles.
I did. I also did public seminars at the time, 100 cities a year. So I lived on the road for 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
But I was willing to do that sacrifice because that is a sacrifice. I wasn't married. My joke was by the time I got home, whoever I was dating had married somebody else.
It's a good one.
It was a good one. It was true, too. And that set up a stage for me of people being exposed to me, not only on television, but in public seminars. So the people who were exposed to my public seminars worked for AT&T, Ford Global, Walt Disney, NASA. I ended up for 12 years with contracts with NASA, AT&T, Ford Global, Walt Disney, until 9/11. I had $1 million on the books on 9/11. 9/11. 17, I remember it so clearly because I had a little teeny condo on the water.
Here in Virginia Beach?
Here in Virginia Beach. I had this little teeny red TV set. And I was watching TV, making a sandwich for myself at lunchtime when I see these towers go down. And of course, we're all mortified, terrified, scared. Nowhere in my brain did I realize in 17 days I'd go from $1 million and a thriving business to zero.
Wow.
On the books.
Mm-hmm.
All the big companies, even after 12 years of loyalty, of working for them, we're not doing any more seminars, canceled all the contracts. So for a year and a half, there was this horrible waking up in the morning going, this career that I have nurtured and built and been so successful in has been completely taken away from me. What am I going to do with myself? How do I use my skills and abilities to build this back up?
Wow.
So one day I had this thought, and it was, wow, look at all the coaches in the world who are very good at their coaching, whether it's lawyer coaching or you've got CPAs, you've got chiropractors, you've got all these people. They don't know squat about mindset. I mean, nothing.
Right.
So I put together this program, and at the time it was called co-op coaching, for lack of a better name. And immediately, in the very first month, I sold $60,000 worth of that coaching.
Wow.
Because all these people...
This is you one-on-one with people.
That is correct. And I signed them up to become my sponsors for this content that we control the content to their, we call them herds.
Okay.
To their... It's a fond term you use when you have big groups of coaching people.
Okay.
Because they're like a herd.
Yeah,
you
right,
you
right.
Move to the right.
Well, says the cowgirl who grew up in...
Right. So I went from...
right? Grew up,
right, Chucky Tuck. So I went from, thriving to completely broke for a year and a half. But here's the good news. Because I grew up poor, I'm a saver.
Okay.
I don't save for 6 months. I save for 6 years.
Wow.
I'm serious. I am, that's how poor when you grow up and on a ranch and
on a peanut farm.
Yeah, you use everything. We were MacGyvers and everything. I mean, we figured out like, oh, well, that's broke. Well, we'll figure out how to fix it. Because, it's not like, in the middle of Chucky Tuck, Virginia, there's going to be a repair shop. So from that, Bob, the resiliency that I learned of, the phoenix burning and
for sure
rising back up.
Yeah.
So this is
the ability to recover from adversity, the basic definition of resilience.
So in 4 days from now, it's my 22nd anniversary of starting that company.
Okay. So we're 22 years post 9/11, 2001.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So I started that, and that has, gone into a lot of other things, and speaking at events, very large events, writing books with people. And I just, every day I wake up just kind of amazed that I have the opportunity to live this life.
Yeah. Well, what's really cool, speaking at events, is how we met. So Stephen Oliver, who we mentioned earlier, they were so kind to me. They invited me to come and speak, kind of very short notice, at one of their martial arts seminars. These are martial arts, and but for the listeners, these are martial art instructors from around the country, and they all meet regularly, and they share secrets, or not. They share their success stories, and all the business aspects of owning multiple martial arts studios. And Stephen Oliver kind of heads that up, and. They asked me to speak when they were here in Virginia Beach. I was delighted to. They bought a lot of copies of my book, which was awesome. And they held one of the days of their programming was here at iFly. And that's when you were programmed to speak for them here at iFly. And that's how we met. So that was really cool.
It was really cool. And by the way, they do like to think of them as secrets.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I have the secret to make your martial arts, place very successful.
Yeah.
And I've been working with Stephen now literally 22 years.
That is so cool. And the reason it's so cool is because him and Jeff Smith and Hung Kao, who is a mutual friend of ours, and Hung's a very good friend of mine. Obviously, I served in Navy Special Operations for 26 years, Hung 25 years, and I was one of his instructors at Navy Dive School. But you know, Stephen Oliver and Jeff Smith and their whole organization, it's so professional, and they run it so well. And for you to be with it, you said for 22 years?
22 years he has taken my materials and offered it to all of the martial arts people. So I'm actually kind of really famous in the martial arts world, even though I don't practice martial arts. My joke is my mouth is deadly.
All right.
And it can be, yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right.
Yes, they outcuss anybody.
Okay. All right. Well, that is cool. That is so cool. Folks, we're going to take a quick time out. Lee and I are both good capitalists, and so we're going to take a quick break for capitalism. Back in a minute. I want to take a minute to tell you about my book titled Elevate Your Leadership: How to Develop, Maintain, and Advance Lifelong Leadership. This book is based on my 26 years in U.S. Navy Special Operations and now 13 years in the private sector. Leadership is a perishable skill and a personal brand. In Part 1, I guide you through building and applying your personal brand of leadership. Leadership also requires physical energy and mental clarity. In Part 2, I go over the 6 key components of health and wellness and how you can apply these components every single day to become a great leader. This book is also breathable. What does that mean? It's 170 pages, 12-point font, with charts and graphs and pictures to break up the monotony of reading page after page. Finally, this book is available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and of course, RobertPizzini.com. Folks, I want to take a minute and talk about Breeden Construction. Breeden Construction built iFly Virginia Beach 10 years ago, and our building is solid. Why? Building a standard. Our standard is excellence. Visionary thinking, innovative design, dynamic solutions, and transformative growth. While others may see lofty ideals, we see the very foundation needed to construct a better future. This isn't just a promise we make to you, it's the standard we uphold. This is Breeden Construction. Learn more at breedenconstruction.com. Headquartered in Virginia with offices throughout Virginia and North Carolina, you can contact Breeden Construction directly at area code 804-364-4600. Breeden Construction, a national general contractor. We are back. We are talking to Lee Milteer. Lee is an author, a speaker, a coach, a TV host, a cowgirl, and just a very successful businesswoman overall, and just a fascinating person to get to know and to interact with. And just before the break, we were talking about how we met here at iFly when Stephen Oliver and his group brought you in. And you also had the opportunity to have the flight experience while you were here. Can you tell us about that?
I was just blown away with actually how much fun that was. I'd seen people do it, and it was one of those things, Bob, that I thought, I'm going to get around to doing that one day.
I do that all the time.
And, you know, when Stephen called me and said, you know, come speak, and this is where it's going to be, and you should check this out, I was like, absolutely, I definitely want to do that. I was completely impressed with your staff, with how actually in tune they were with each person, like in the class. Mm-hmm. So in my class, there was a little teeny kid who was a little disruptive, and I was so amazed at how the instructor like brought him up to the front of the class, gave him the needed attention that this little 5-year-old needed, and made him feel good. How he could remember everybody's names. I mean, there's like almost 30 of us in this class, and he could remember everyone's names. And anyway, it was just it was a fantastic experience.
That's great. That's great. We say when with our team, with our instructor team, that we don't deliver the experience. We are in the experience with you, right? So we're doing it together. And so that's kind of the mindset, one of the things that we focus on the flight deck there. So thank you for the observations of the great team we have here. We have 40 employees here at iFly Virginia Beach. Our leadership team, there's 7 people on the leadership team. 5 of those 7 have been here from the beginning. You met Misty earlier,
Yes.
and Kendall, and so they've been here for all 10 years, and then the other 2 people have been on board for about 6 or 7 years. So just a great team, and that's probably, I'm sure you wrote about that or you talk about that at some point. You know, when a team is together for such a long time, obviously things are working out.
Yes.
And you build this trust and this bond, and it's not like, hey, why were you late? It's like, hey, is everything okay?
Yes.
You know, I've got a really good friend, Blue Angel, and he's got this incredible story that he tells, a former Navy Blue Angel, on how they were flying. You know, they fly those tight formations and their wingtips are a couple inches apart, and he tells this incredible story on how he wasn't holding his position properly one time. And, you know, he is envisioning his career coming to an end. And what comes over the radio from one of his teammates is, hey, are you okay? And he knew at that moment that he was okay. So it's just really, really inspiring. So, well, so you're now traveled the world. Millions of people have your product, your service, your presence. What does that look like now? What does the Lee Milteer enterprise look like?
Well, I started this fun group called the Alchemist Inner Circle. In fact, I just spoke at Russell Brunson. You know who that is? Brunson, the ClickFunnels guy.
Oh, yeah.
I spoke at his big event, and I debuted the Alchemist Inner Circle.
Oh, really?
And he was so funny because...
Do you have the ClickFunnel thing? Because I remember that, and I didn't do it, but that's where I recognize it, because he was kind of the first big ClickFunnel guy, right? And I think he had a partner.
Yes. I don't know who that partner was, but I think he has a lot of partners today.
Okay.
I actually don't do ClickFunnels because I try to keep my reality as low tech as possible, just so I'm sane.
Yeah.
But I do have an online, mastermind group. It's called the Alchemist Inner Circle, and they're all entrepreneurs. They're all business owners. We meet a couple of times a month, and it's a lot of fun.
That's cool. I'm
still providing content for people around the world, and get to interview wonderful people such as yourself and read your book. And I'm so pleased with myself, Bob, because I've created a life.
It's a great thing to be able to say.
With doing what I really love.
Yeah.
Like, I love to meet fascinating people. I love to interview, and I love to read. And I'm a learner. I feel the best at the end of the day when I've learned something. For sure.
You know, we have a saying, and this is a military thing. I think it came out of the Marine Corps. But I forget the actual origin. But it's, what have I learned today? Who needs to know it? And have I told them?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's very good. I like that.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of excited about life. I'm still speaking. I love speaking, like you.
Yeah.
You know,
I love it. When people come up
so much
afterwards,
fun.
it's fun. I'm energized when I'm on stage and in the moment. But, my signature keynote is the health and wellness of leaders and teams. And, you've read my book. It's the whole second half of my book. But when people come up after a speaking engagement and they go, I needed to hear that you have remotivated me, and it's just, I love the feedback.
Well, I loved your book specifically because of that, because there's lots of leadership books, and I probably have all of them in my library. Yeah. I have a hard time getting rid of books and my addiction.
Okay.
But most leadership books, to me, do not really talk about personal. How do you lead yourself so you can be a good leader?
Yeah.
Your book is very much on target with that. I really love you went into such detail about, the different health things and what they mean and the research about it. And I actually took 4 excerpts from your book when we interviewed you to put as part of, because I don't do just interviews. I actually like the people who are studying my interviews, because my interviews aren't these lightweight interviews.
Right. You're right. Here's 9 questions.
No.
Right.
These are the deep dive information that who I'm interviewing can really help the people who are listening. And that is why I've been able to stick around for 22 years doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, as you can well imagine, when I first started, people said, oh, well, that has a shelf life
Right.
of 2 or 3 years. And I remember saying, you obviously haven't met me.
Love it. Love it.
Because if I find a really good business, baby, I'm going to stick to that business. And I think people do jump. It's like they're racing a horse, but they change horses in mid-race.
That's right. See it all the time.
And they lose all momentum. People are completely confused about, what are you doing now?
Yeah.
People know what I'm doing because I'm doing the thing that I've always done that has made me happy first.
Yeah.
Because as a leader, our whole demeanor shows every time we walk in the door.
Absolutely.
If you're not happy in your business, it is you can fake it, but people who work with you know you're faking it. That means that if you're not excited, they're not excited. They're not going to go the extra mile because they already see the writing on the wall. This is a short-term gain.
Right.
I'm always in for the long run.
So the long haul, what we say, stay the course, steady as she goes. People want to change direction quickly. I remember when I was probably 12 or 13 or 14 years old, I was into windsurfing. Windsurfing was just becoming a thing back then. And there was this regatta, and I'm this punk kid, who can barely get there on time, racing against more experienced, older adults, and seasoned sailboaters.
Right.
And so I can't remember if it's jibe or tack or whatever, but like you got to go out, and you got to go out far enough so when you make the turn to come back, you have gone far enough that wind is going to take you to where you need to go. And I was like, stay the course. And the guy I was racing against, he makes this turn. And I was like, if I turned where he turned, I'm not going to make it back. So I kept going. Finally, I thought it's time to make the turn. So steady as she goes, stay the course. I made the turn. I came back. I won the regatta.
Oh, yay. Of course you did.
So, yeah, well, I wouldn't have told the story otherwise. So, but I totally believe in that in leadership. And you also, it's so true that, you identified it right off the bat. Mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and what was the other one?
Financial. Right.
So I taught in health and wellness. I refer to mental, physical, and emotional all the time. And a lot of that has to do with what I've learned through coaching kids in hockey and some of the other experiences in my life. But those are huge. And as you said, people see your state as soon as you walk in the door or as soon as they come in your office. And as a leader, you want to be the same person every day. And you want to be as steady as she goes, right? You don't want to have storm clouds over your head because then people, they don't want to communicate with you. So
one of the things I always tell, I do a lot of leadership seminars, obviously. So I always say to them, when you touch the doorknob of your office, are you the owner open for business? Meaning, if you have something bothering you, have you sat in your car long enough to get through it and, put it aside, put it in a bag mentally, whatever, before you walk in? Because our staff psychically and intuitively can discern when the leader is off, when they're troubled, when things are not good, and it makes them deep down afraid on a psychological basis because whether we know it or not, they see us as Big Daddy and Big Mama.
Right.
We know everything. We don't, obviously.
Right.
But we know enough to run what we're doing. But if we aren't strong, we on a level scare them, and they will actually leave to try to find a place of security. And I don't think the corporate world has caught this yet. And I speak a lot to the corporate world saying, you have to provide a security that is like unconscious security, that you've got to be happy there. You've got to be completely married to what you're doing. You've got to be all in. You cannot be 1 foot in and 1 foot trying to find a job somewhere else, or you don't like how you're being treated. So I personally like working at the entrepreneurial world a little bit better because they're actually all in.
For sure. Absolutely.
I mean, because they actually get this.
Yeah, yeah, or they will eventually. There's the entrepreneurial journey unto itself.
Right.
Where at first you're all product and service, and then you hire somebody, and it's like, oh, now I'm a leader.
Right.
That person works for me, and I have to provide appropriate leadership. The other thing you mentioned, the leader being all in and putting your teammates at ease. If you're all in, if you're the same person every day, it's kind of what you were referring to. People are comfortable being themselves around you, and that's really, I think, critical in the workplace. And if you're not comfortable being around your boss, perhaps you should go work somewhere else. And it's just that simple. I have 40 people on the team, like I said, and each and every one of my teammates I love to interact with, whether we're talking about, what do sales projections look like, or how's your college career going, or how's your family, all those things. And that makes you easy to be around. And I think that improves the work experience for the people on your team.
It absolutely does. So I have a publishing company, and I know that I have a lifespan. And so when I hire people who are really good, I say to them, look, I know that you'll be here for a period of time, and then your life will call you to other places. But I tell them all the story about people who have come to work for me who have said at the end, like 9 years. I keep people by between 7 and 9 years, which is a pretty long time. This lady said to me, she said, I came to work for you. I was like a lamb, but I've left a lion. You are such a great example of, no matter what adversity there is, you're like full standing up in front, you are like facing it and dealing with it. And she said, watching you deal with a lot of, let's just call it BS,
sure.
From the world, it has given me so much faith in myself. That woman went on to create a international company that she's rocking it. And all the people who have left me have literally left with such a foundation of strength and confidence, and are doing so well. And I'm so proud of that.
Yeah.
I miss them, by the way.
Sure.
But they were wonderful, because I said to them, there will be a day that something will call you. I'm just a step in your life. And I've always accepted that, because I know that I'm also a step in other people's lives.
Right.
And that's just the way life is.
It is. Absolutely true. And I think it's the greatest compliment when somebody contacts you after 10 years or 5 years or whatever, and they say, I just want to thank you because of the time I spent with you, whatever I'm doing now is going really well. Even that time when we disagreed on whatever it was, and I've gotten a handful of those phone calls as well. They go, I wish I wouldn't have been so disagreeable in that moment, but overall you helped me get to where I am. That's just the greatest feeling in the world.
Oh, it is. It's a fabulous, and I'm so proud that they were part of my world and I was part of theirs. Yeah. And I do get from time to time some really fabulous little thank you notes, and I'm just very proud of that I really care about the people who work for me. They become my family.
For sure.
In a way.
I want to take it back to Steady as She Goes.
Okay.
And, the long haul. We're in it for the long haul. And this is regarding publishing a book. When I published my book in 2002, I didn't realize it until maybe a week or a month later that publishing a book is like having a child. And there's care and feeding that's required really on a daily basis. And if you don't do that, your child is going to have health issues.
Yes, it's called flop issues.
Yeah.
That is correct. Yes, bringing a book into this world, I would say the general population is very completely unaware of the work that is involved with that. So people are always saying to me, are you writing a new book? And I'm going, I'm always writing a new book, but I have to pace myself when I actually publish the book, because once you start to publish that book, it is a full-time job of being on interviews. It's called hustle.
Exactly.
Because I think Amazon has 8 million plus books on there. It's not like our book is the only book available. And there are a lot of people writing about things you and I both write about.
For sure.
And the only thing that makes a book sell is it's not a magic formula. It's just called grunt work.
Yeah.
It's called be out into the world, send a lot of free books out.
Exactly.
Be willing to do as many interviews as you can possibly do. Have reprints of your, articles and things put in other places.
Right.
So it's, people think, oh, well, you're on the best-selling list. How did that happen? Well, let's say hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours, and God only knows how much money of, getting in touch with all your people, asking them to talk about the book, and,
Right.
Just getting it out into the world. I even bought ads in different magazines.
Yeah.
Looking for magazines that would fit the topic that I was on, because one of the great things about a magazine is they have a little bit longer shelf life. So, we've tried everything from social media to real magazines to, everything we could possibly think about to get your book out there. And 5 times it worked. Didn't work every time, but 5 times it worked.
Yeah. There's a lot of work involved there. But I enjoy it, and so do you, because, you're very conversational. You like to talk to people. You like to share your experiences, and so do I. Pivoting back over to the way we help our teammates and lead, and I've had teammates come and go just as you have, and my definition of leadership is, in 2 words, is to enable others. And that's certainly here within the business, but it's also whatever it is they're trying to accomplish in their personal life or their professional life that's not necessarily linked to what they do in my company. And so enabling others, the full definition, enabling others to accomplish their objectives, and there's a longer definition still. I've got like 3 versions of the definition, but how do you define the word leadership?
Before you asked me that, I was like thinking, how do I define leadership? I actually work on leadership, empowering people to use their skills and abilities with confidence.
Okay.
Because basically we all have skills and abilities that haven't been nurtured. And if those are nurtured, then people can bring them out. And so many people are walking around with the wounds of their childhood. Not that I didn't have my fair share of those, trust me, but I've spent my whole life like facing those wounds and then going, oh, how can I monetize those wounds? How can I capitalize those wounds? Because if I had them, that means a lot of people had them.
Right.
So I can talk about the wounds and my fears and my doubts, and that gives people confidence. And that's really what people need almost the most in leadership, is to feel that their opinion, their knowledge is valued and usable. Because remember, when you're kids, or I grew up with this, we would prefer to see you, not hear you kind of attitude, or speak when you're spoken to. And that really prevents a lot of people from coming out with their music, their skills, their abilities.
Yeah, their value.
Yes, their value. In today's world, I think social media has done a horrible disservice to people of this comparison. My joke is, it didn't happen if there wasn't a picture on social media about it.
Yeah, right.
And that, people take pictures of their food and they take pictures of everything, and that's fine. It's just that for the most part, what's really important is, what are you contributing to the world?
Yeah.
Like, during tough times, are you rising up to the occasion? Are you seeing opportunities and possibilities where other people are seeing, we're going to fall apart?
Victims.
Yeah, victimhood. And I have a saying, when you're volunteering to be a victim with your self-talk, with your own lack of vision for yourself, that you have to stand up. You have to actually believe in the own inner authority, the part of yourself where you're like, I know things that I am happy to share with people. And if you share them in a way that they can hear it where there's no ego and there's no power. People really are interested in you and what you have to share. And that's really not happening in the social media world. It's everybody's an influencer.
Yeah, expert. Everybody's an expert influencer,
It's like, it's laughable. It's actually laughable.
I was a Navy bomb technician for 26 years, and I would not call myself an explosives expert.
Right.
So other people can call me that, but I would never call, especially, considering some of the people that I've worked with who I truly consider experts, but somebody who can have influence, sure. Somebody who can contribute to the mission, sure.
Because really what leaders are is they are people who see possibilities.
Yeah, opportunities.
They do. They see opportunities. So I'm always saying to leaders, you're scanning the landscape of your world and things intuitively are popping out. Oh, this would be a good place for me to do business, or this is a good person to connect with, or this person would be great on my team. That's the way that leaders really think.
Sure.
They're very solution-oriented thinking, and they're not at all victim thinking.
Right.
Because you can't run a successful business being a victim, because every day there are things trying to
You're getting attacked every day. Yeah. As leaders, we get attacked from whether it's, performance or marketing, or somebody on your team does something that, they shouldn't have done. Yeah, we're being attacked from several directions every single day. But I also think, just based on my own experience, we talk about possibilities and opportunities, and I look at iFly Virginia Beach, I saw an opportunity that other people saw, but they were not able to get it done. And I just had this, I knew somebody was going to do it. The opportunity was there.
Right.
Somebody was going to do this one day. And I just felt like I was well positioned. So where I'm going with this, that's recognizing opportunity. And I think it takes a trained eye. Leaders have to have a certain amount of experience to scan, like you said, for those possibilities and those opportunities. Somebody might not see it. A lot of people might not see it where the trained leader sees it. And then the other part of that is to create opportunity where one doesn't necessarily exist. And that takes a really trained leader to do stuff like that.
It does. Then convince people on why they should back and support and do business with you.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So not everyone can be a leader.
Right.
I mean, people like to say, leaders aren't born. Maybe not, but there's something very young inside of them that ignited this ability to sort of see past the obvious, to see these opportunities. I believe that business owners and entrepreneurs and leaders are really wired differently than the average population. And I mean this in a gentle, nice way. Not everybody wants to be a leader. I mean, I know people who have really good jobs, they make really good money, and at 5 o'clock, Bob, I mean, their brain is towards sitting on the beach, having a beer, think about the job anymore until they get there.
Right. 9 to 5. I call those settlers.
Settlers. Okay.
And we need settlers in our businesses.
We do. Yeah. Somebody's got to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But for you and I, at 5 o'clock is just another hour in the day of creative thinking.
It's like, holy cow, it's 5 o'clock already.
Ready?
Where did the day go?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we wake up in the morning to do what we do, which is such a blessing in life.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't realize that. It's like, I already know what I'm going to do. I don't have to look at my calendar. I'm going to get stuff done today because it makes me the happiest on earth. At the end of the day, I got stuff done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wrote an article. I interviewed someone brilliant.
Yeah.
I made some money. I gave away some money. I paid bills. I have a day ahead of me.
That's the beauty of being like a carpenter or one of the skilled trades, because at the end of the day, they can look back and see what they built that day.
Exactly.
It's pretty cool.
It is very cool.
So, Lee, this is a fascinating discussion, and your level of experience with leadership and interacting with leaders and teams, right? Because leaders need teams and teams need leaders. So one of the things I always say is good leaders develop good teammates, and then good teammates go on to become good leaders, or you could supplant the word good with great, depending on the organization, and that's a big deal. So it's awesome, and there is a visibility, there is an awareness that we have to have. What haven't I asked you that you want to share with people?
How do you find what you're good at? Okay. By the way, in my book, Success is an Inside Job, the chapter 2 in there is really about going into your, we know people like this, they have a lot of skills, but they can't seem to focus it. So I always say, if you go back into your childhood and look at what you did and what you like to do and what you imagine yourself doing before you got brainwashed by society.
Right.
Oh, you're supposed to do this.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to follow this path, and you're supposed to climb the ladder and do all these things.
Yeah, get all that. That childhood visioning is healthy. It's awesome.
And so I believe that we're born with a passion inside of us, and that if you can find the passion that makes you happy, that is your future. Because if you're trying to do things, and I have tried, I have tried to do things that paid a lot of money, had a lot of clout to them, and I could do them, but I did not wake up happy in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I did not feel fulfilled. I felt like I was sort of wasting my time, even though money was involved. So now I'm really at this point in life that you have within you all of this. It's like a lock. It's like to your heart. What is it that you really love to do? And then how can you make money from that?
Yeah, exactly. That's Jeffrey Hazlett, chairman of the C-Suite Network. Those are his 2 priorities. It's got to be fun, and I got to make money doing it.
So this is my husband's favorite thing. So my husband, his father was a golf pro, and he was a surfer. And so he has made great living, either selling golf stuff or he has invented a bunch of golf stuff.
Wow.
And he made money surfing because he was on a tour.
Who knew? Pro golfer and surfer. Wow.
And he also, he found these surf lines, and he would go around the United States and he would sell all these surf lines to very large retail outlets and make a ton of money. And he's now into music. And so the whole thing is, every day he says, I only am going to do what makes me happy. And he makes money in the music business now.
Wow.
And so I find that a great model that people should think about. It's like work, I'm sure people say this to you occasionally. You're way too young for this, but they're probably saying, well, you've done so much. When are you thinking about retiring? And you're like, and do what?
Right, exactly.
I'm going to get into mischief if I retire.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't do that.
I have to have a purpose for getting up every single morning.
Yeah.
So why not make our purpose is that each and every one of us as humans are bringing something to the game. And what can you bring to the game that you're actually having fun?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So I always say to people when I do one-on-one coaching with them, I do a lot of one-on-one coaching. It's like, what would you do for free? What would you do for free because you like it so much? And when I did television, even though I made a lot of money in television, I would have done it for free. It was so much fun. I mean, I love the whole thing. I love being in the chair and the makeup and the hair. And they bring you clothes and you're on the set and there's limos. Oh, it's fun. And I did that as long as I wanted to do it because, one, people start to lose being grateful. They start to take things for granted. And they start comparing themselves to other people. Well, that person's making more money than me, so now I'm going to be unhappy.
Right, keeping up with the Joneses and all that, yeah.
What they don't know is the Joneses are deeply in debt.
That's right.
It's all fake. All the cars are leased. The house is rented.
That's right.
They're buying clothes for pictures and sending them back. Yeah, I've met the Joneses.
That is funny. That is funny. So, Lee, what a fascinating discussion, and we could go on because leadership is such a common topic with both of us. And there were many things you said, and I took notes, and I was like, man, I want to deep dive on that, but we'll probably save a lot of that for another episode. So what a fun discussion. And You have a very public presence on all the websites and all that stuff, but what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Actually, the best way is just to go to my website, milteer.com, Milteer, and there's how to get in contact with me, which is assistant@Milteer.
Yeah.
Email me.
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on all the things.
Right.
I will admit to you, I'm not actually on all those things. There are people who do that for me.
Yeah.
Because there's only so many hours per day.
Yeah.
And like you, I have to pick and choose where my time goes.
Yeah.
And I'm not a person who is just going to spend hours scrolling through other people's stuff.
Yeah. You got to prioritize your time to monetize.
Exactly. And I don't want to pick up everybody's, negative attitude.
Yeah.
What you
or look at my ham sandwich. I don't care about a picture of your ham sandwich.
I used to say to joke, if you are posting pictures of food, I am not for you. So, I really want to say before we leave today how important it is, the work that you're doing and helping people see that their leadership comes through their own body and everything that you've shared, what you're doing in the world, because it's a very important thing. And what you do gives someone else hope that, look what Bob's done. And because he's done those things, he's given me social proof that they can be done. And that's what most of us as leaders are actually doing. We've faced the fire. Mm-hmm. We've been terrified and still stand up. Mm-hmm. We've been broke and still figure out, how to pay the bills. I mean, all of us have had extremely challenging realities we've had to deal with. I've had more than my share, but everything that other people would say that would break me, that actually just made me stronger.
For sure. That social proof, I'm following those who have gone before me. Right. And then there's those who come behind us. But I've always been one to just observe what others are doing that works.
Right.
And try and duplicate.
Right.
And observe just as important, observe what others are doing that doesn't work. And don't
do that. Yes, exactly. And again, I think we're seeing, social media, and social media has its place, but not to the point that your whole life is surrounded by the fakeness of this.
Yeah.
Our business is going to go on whether social media is here or not, because we're both contributing to something important. You're giving people here at iFly a thrill. But it's more than a thrill. It's actually a confidence-building thing of they were afraid to do it.
Right.
And they did it, which gave them proof and evidence. Hey, I did this and I'm still alive. And
exactly.
So the people coming to like iFly will then now have the motivation and the ability to now see other challenges in their life as like, well, I can do that. And so I think people would wrongly just look at your work as, just entertainment. Mm-hmm. But it's actually on a deeper level, a very important skill to face your fears and do things you've never done before, because it's just like the 4-minute mile. Mm-hmm. Once somebody did it, then people did it.
Yeah.
And, within I think it was 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It had never been done before. Within 3 weeks, because someone saw it, it was done again.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that number, but it was a real short time.
You're so perceptive. We haven't even discussed the flight experience and how I observe that every day. And to say what you said another way, it takes you outside of your comfort zone, right? You face the challenge, you overcome it, and then your comfort zone expands. So now you have this expanded comfort zone to go apply to other things, other aspects of your life. It's a big deal. And we do half-day, full-day, multi-day leadership and team development events here at iFly Virginia Beach, hosted and facilitated by yours truly. Although I love to bring in guest speakers.
I would love to be one of your guest speakers. It would be fun.
And the first thing we do is have people, whether it's a group from different organizations or a team from the same organization, we have people do the flight experience first thing, because it's a real icebreaker. It's a real team builder. It's way better than walking across hot coals.
Absolutely.
And-
I've done that.
Okay. All right. And then we come up in the conference room and we facilitate, roundtable discussion on all things leadership and teams. So, Lee Milteer, you've been a fascinating guest here on the Elevate Your Leadership podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you for listening to the Elevate Your Leadership podcast. To contact Bob directly or to learn more about how Bob can advance you and your organization through leadership training, team building, executive coaching, and public speaking, visit robertpizzini.com. Robert, Pizzini.com, and connect with him on LinkedIn.